record this, because what I've been doing for my AP classes is, let me just go full screen here. For my AP classes, I've been recording it, so kids who either don't have funky internet or for whatever reason they're down testing or something, I've been linking recordings of the classes so people can catch up that way. So it's worked out pretty well. We're going to spend some time together today, but this may be the last time in these 2 weeks that we get together as a whole class, and I'll explain why to you in a second here. But just to let you know, in case I start to cut out or my internet gets pretty funky, as I said earlier, when some of you were logging on, our living situation's changed a bit. We're actually in a tent. We gave up our house so that my daughter and her family can quarantine for 2 weeks. So Mrs. Lavender and I are just kind of hunkered down with the dogs, sort of glamping it, which is probably fun in the summer. It's a little challenging in the winter months, but it's working out well. And I don't know if any of you heard my brother-in-law, and I say this just to emphasize all this shelter in place, this social distancing can seem kind of overblown, but we had a real scare over the weekend. My brother-in-law was hospitalized down in Montrose. I haven't had contact with him in, gosh, about 3 weeks now. But he'd gone up to retrieve my nephew from Boulder. And yeah, he was hospitalized with coronavirus, was in pretty bad shape. He's back now, back at his house on oxygen and hopefully on the mend. So it's a real relief for us. But it just drives home that, I was down in town yesterday, running a couple of errands and, keeping my distance from everybody, and saw, like Jaden Wells and a couple other people. Jaden was running along. I know there's a lot of people back in town. I know you guys want to hang out with them. Hey, Jack. Yeah, keep the distance. This is a pretty serious disease. We had a real scare. Anyway, so my plan for the next 2 weeks is I want today to go over some resources I've made available for you on our webpage. We're also trying to declutter the webpage. I don't know if you guys, I know that the Junior Sem with 3 groups and, Mr. Baffo posting endless amounts of stuff. And, it's been very, very cluttered. So we've tried to set up separate groups. I hope the message I sent out this morning just went to group C. But, so hopefully that'll be better. But let me go ahead and show you a couple of things. So let's look at.
Oh, Joey wanted me to let you know that his Wi-Fi crashed, and that's why he's not on.
That's fine. Just do tell him at some point that he can watch a recording of this later. Not that it's that exciting. Whoops. So Junior Sem. So this is this really super cluttered. You can all see this page?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So this is super cluttered. But hopefully on your page, this red folder is available to you. And again, what I'm going to ask you guys to do is we're not going to meet as a group this week. You're going to work this week on a first pass of the college application essay. I'm going to walk you through some stuff that kind of describes what a college application essay is. Keep in mind that this is a first pass. This may not go anywhere. And to write an essay that turns out to just not work is fine. Oftentimes we have to take several passes at several different ideas or topics before we settle on one that we'll really spend time taking next fall, taking through 2, 3, 4, 5 drafts, etc. And of course, some of you guys have already written stuff for for Pinhead things, so you've got some experience. You guys have some background in doing this. But what's in this folder is just this college essay workshop this is from Senior Sem from a few years ago. It's a little dated. Part of my problem is, remember when we did those self-reflections a month ago, which were great, by the way? They're all locked down in Mrs. Lavender's office, and I have no access to them. And my thought was I could, work through those and figure, oh, hey, these are some great topics. So we're going to have to hold off on that. But in the meantime, people often, let me stop this. This college essay workshop, people say, oh, what does a college application have to be? The college application process is wide open. Let me see that chat. Mine is Jack R. I don't know, Jack, why are you R? Jack, you can turn on your screen if you want. If you don't, I understand.
Is his middle name Ryan?
What's that? I guess. I don't know.
Jack's middle name Ryan?
Yeah.
Maybe. So where is?
It's
Sorry. Let me go. So people often wonder, well, what am I supposed to write about? There are, no, this is what I want. Hang on. Let me get rid of this, sorry. These are the last year's Common App essay prompts. And they don't really change a whole lot from year to year. Fortunately, Boulder has changed theirs and it's much easier. But these prompts, if you look at them, some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that's so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. So it sounds like you, then please share your story. Wide open. The lessons we take from obstacles we can encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you? Yada, yada, yada. Reflect on a time when you questioned your challenge or belief or idea. What prompted your thinking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you look at number 7, share an essay on any topic of your choice. So, I mean, they're wide open. The reason they publish all these prompts is because, frankly, if you're attending a high school with, 4,000 kids, 1,000 people in your senior class, you're not going to spend a whole lot of time with your college counselor. You will spend a lot of time with me and with Mrs. Lavender next fall. So these are really directed, but a college application essay can be anything. Let me switch to, I don't want you guys, anything can make, it doesn't have to be some major thing. Obviously, if you've attended some, Pinhead Institute on, studying genetics and stuff, that's cool. But even there, you want to focus on a small moment. We want to tell a story. You might focus on the bus ride to and from the university where your pinhead is taking place or something, and some quirky thing that happened, some small anecdote. We want to think of these as primarily narrative. You're telling a story. But ideally, we're looking for something, a story that conveys some larger meaning about you. I always think back to who was it? Oh, Victor Major, one of his essays. And you guys, being a fairly, aiming toward pretty selective colleges, you guys are going to need several essays in your quiver. But one of Victor's essays was about kayaking some irrigation ditch down near Grand Junction or something. And, he described getting his gear together, driving down there, putting the boat in, and then just straight shot down this irrigation ditch. No eddies, no outlets until he launches out at the end. And of course, so that's the story he's telling. That story contains a pretty handy metaphor, which is this idea of commitment or being committed. Once you're in that ditch, there's no going back. There's no eddy. There's no outlet. You're committed for the full haul. So we're looking for a story that will reflect one aspect of you. If we look at, let me look at, hang on here. Here's Boulder's new supplement. Boulder requires 2 essays. It's in addition to the common application essay required to submit a CU Boulder writing supplement at the University of Colorado Boulder, where most of you guys will be a backup for you, or maybe your first choice. No 2 buffs are alike. We value difference and support equity and the inclusion of all students. There are many interesting identities. Pick one of your unique identities and describe its significance. Now there again, if you want to say, I'm somebody who's really determined. I persevere. Once I commit to something, I stick to it. Rather than talk about those things, which is a possible way to write the essay, it's generally better to try to come up with a context, a story in which you can, generally speaking. How many of you guys last year read? Did you guys have? No, you guys didn't have Jones. Did you read To Shoot an Elephant by Orwell?
No,
No, you didn't? No.
unfortunately not.
Okay. Maybe one of the things I'll do is I'll post a couple of short narrative essays that you can read. Because generally, the difference between fiction and nonfiction is just we present nonfiction as something that's really happened. but nonfiction uses a lot of the same strategies, a lot of the same writing techniques. It can have dialogue, it can have an abundance of detail, it can have kind of a narrative arc. But generally in fiction, if you read a short story, you leave it to the reader to figure out the big idea. In a nonfiction essay, the kinds that you're going to be writing, generally you're telling story until about 2/3 of the way you stop and you have this big revelation. Said it wasn't until that moment that I realized blank, and you kind of are explicit about the big idea, and then you go back and close out the story. Keep in mind that 650 words is not very many. The tyranny of the word count. It used to be 500. So that's, hey Ron, so that's one thing we're gonna try to be aware of. Yeah, I might post. I'm going to do that. I'm going to post an essay for you guys to read. So what we're going to do after I go through this college essay workshop, my idea is that each of you will write a 650 or close to 650 words. If you go a little over, that's okay. Essay that you'll then send to me. I'll read these over the weekend, and next week we'll use second period and tutorials, provided you guys are free. I'll come up with a schedule where you and I can meet one-on-one and kind of walk through your essay. And that's pretty much all that we're doing for these 2 weeks. So it should be kind of fun. Writing, I know, you guys mostly enjoy writing. I think you're good writers. So anyway, let me go and see this. Let me find this. Whoops. College application. Whoops. Okay.
Rowan is having too many connection issues to be here, so he'll join later, and he says hi back.
Hey, Rowan. No worries.
So yeah, he'll just watch the recording, but yeah, he
fine.
Can't be here.
That's fine. Thanks, Ryder. Yeah. These are tough times.
Yeah.
So this is an old document. This is in that folder, and you guys can read through it. There's a lot of stuff that's irrelevant. There's sort of assignments and whatnot that you can ignore. But this is an old document that I've used with Senior Sam for years. I think it's got some good information. We've got this cartoon here, and of course, I like this cartoon. Why? Well, because writing is about taking yourself and, putting it on paper. The self disappears. It winds up in the story. Anyway, so what is... how many of you have read Gatsby? You guys haven't read Gatsby, have you? Well, I guess Reese.
I have.
Yeah, okay. Your college application essay is probably most... Sorry, my internet's getting a little unstable here. You guys can all see the screen? Let me move you guys out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The college application is probably the most important essay you'll be writing during your high school career. As a teacher, I wish that we had a high-stakes essay earlier in your year, because one of the things I really enjoy, and we'll be doing this in the first quarter and a half of AP Lang next year, is I love it when you guys finally care about an essay and you start thinking about how you shape sentences, how you develop ideas, how you find apt and specific examples to support those ideas. And so I really enjoy working with you on these essays. I think you guys are gonna find this process, yeah, it's a little stressful, but it's also a lot of fun. So I say this not to ratchet up the pressure on you, but rather to emphasize that unlike many of the essays you've written over the past 2 years, this is not one that you can toss off a night before it's due. In fact, most of this year's seniors, most of every year's seniors, the essays that they wind up sending off to colleges, they usually take through a minimum of 4 or 5, and in some cases 7, 8 drafts. Because again, I can't, if you were writing analyzing a poem from Miss Proud or something, she says, oh no, you want to change the sentence and do this, and you need to subordinate this phrase and this kind of stuff. I can't really do that. I don't want to traduce your voice, because your voice is the most important thing about these essays. Anyway, indeed, the purpose of this workshop is not to get to each of you, to, darn it, produce a polished draft that's ready to send off. Rather, I simply want you to get started on this important process. That's all we're doing. And again, if your essay turns out to be crap, that's fine. We'll just toss it off and try something else. Rather, my intent today, these 2 weeks is to spend some time familiarizing yourself with the application essay, its audience, its purpose, and some generative strategies that you might find useful. Each of you will be required to produce one draft and meet with me to discuss it, not later this month, but these 2 weeks. That's it. My hope is that the ideas we discussed today, blah, 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 blah. You can read that. That's not that interesting. Audience and purpose. 2 things we always consider when we're writing. Who's my audience? What's the purpose of this piece of language? And this is, Gatsby's smile. Those of you who have read this will understand he smiled understandingly, much more than understandingly. It's one of those rare smiles with a quality of eternal reassurance in it that you may have come across 4 or 5 times in life. It faced or seemed to face the whole external world for an instant, then concentrated on you with an irresistible prejudice in your favor. It understood you just as far as you wanted to be understood, believed in you as you would like to believe in yourself, and assured you that it had precisely the impression of you that at your best you hope to convey. So the idea is to make your essay kind of like Gatsby's smile here. Keep the idea that these days you're up against other applicants in the same colleges and universities have similar SAT scores. I should pause here and reassure you guys, given the cancellation of the SAT, the ACT, who knows what's up with the AP exams. We're still waiting until later this week to find further information on those. Mrs. Lavender has been getting tons of email from various colleges, most of whom, I'd say the majority, are looking at making accommodations for your junior class. They know that many of them are going test optional. So if you guys as juniors are freaking out and thinking, oh my God, I can't take the SAT, I can't take a practice ACT, I can't do my subject tests this spring, don't sweat it. There are going to be accommodations made for you. Everybody realizes this is a pretty unprecedented time. So if you're worried about that, please don't be.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. Who burnish their high school transcripts much the way you have, who offer a range of extracurriculars, blah, 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 blah. Basically says that you guys can be up against. You guys are a great group. You're a very strong group. We're very excited about helping you next fall. We're excited about your prospects. But we know that there's, you're going to find most competitive colleges, after they winnow the stacks of applications down, they get rid of people who have no business applying to that school. They still wind up with 2 or 3 or 4 really qualified students for each available space. And that's where it really comes down, not to your board scores, not to your GPAs, your extracurriculars, your sports and stuff, but really to your counselor report, what your teachers say about you in your recommendation, and especially your essays. So as such, your college essay presents a valuable opportunity to differentiate yourself from other equally admittable applicants. And the best, perhaps the only way to do this is, to use the essay to present your unique self. You need to write an essay that reveals what makes you, you at your very best. In short, you need to write an essay that bestows upon you the same glowing beneficence of Gatsby's smile. So, questions so far? No? Good. Purpose of your essay.
Really.
What's that? So the purpose of your essay, therefore, is to write in such a way that reveals your true self, a way that reveals a living, breathing, thinking individual to your reader. Ideally, this is an individual and a voice who will, sorry about my internet's going there, who will appeal to particular sensibilities of the admissions committee. Frankly, however, you have no control over this, so don't sweat it. If you write what you think they want to read, you're doomed. You got to be genuine. You got to be authentic. They don't like you. They don't take you. Whatever. You guys are going to have great choices, just like this year's class does. But you can't try to fake it. You got to be genuine. You got to be you. Back before I started, teaching high school English, I used to write a fair amount. I had more time, and I published quite a few stories. And oftentimes, it was hit and miss. I had a story that came out in the Georgia Review, which is a pretty respectable publication, and they only publish, 2 or 3 stories a quarter, and they received like 3,000 submissions. Now, it didn't mean that my story was the best story submitted. It's just that my story fit that particular editorial board's vision for that issue. Same with colleges. They're not. You can't control a lot of the factors that are obviously beyond your control. What a college is looking for. You just got to be yourself and hope that works for you. And in most cases, it will. So if by contrast, again, you write first and foremost for yourself with the goal of letting the admissions committee hear the unique rhythms of your voice at its very best, you have a much better shot at making your application leap out of the pile. To do this, you must force yourself to be as authentic, as genuine as possible. Believe it or not, after 3 years of the sort of leaden prose, most essay assignments, including ones in my classroom, have invited you to produce. This approach can be both liberating and a heck of a lot of fun. And that's what I'm hoping we'll discover in these next 2 weeks. Here's what your college essay is not. Your college essay is not meant to be a laundry list of all your many accomplishments. There's plenty of room elsewhere in the application to highlight those. You've got your activities list on the Common App. We've got your council report, your teacher letters and stuff. So it can't be comprehensive. You can't write about everything that makes Sam terrific in 650 words. Ideally, you write about one thing that makes Sam really stand out. By again telling a really compelling story that reflects really well on yourself. As such, your essay is not meant to be a comprehensive accounting of your life. You want to keep the focus narrow. More on this in a bit. While your college essay should present your very best and flawless writing, it's not meant to be an exercise in stilted, overly formal academic prose. Ironically, despite the pressure on this essay, or these essays, it's imperative that you relax and write as in genuine a voice as possible. And again, your essay is not meant to present what you feel is an idealized version of a college applicant, one certain to appeal to the admissions officers of your particular school. You can't and shouldn't hide from who you are. Embrace yourself and put that self forward in the best possible light. This is why, we were looking at that Betcher book, that chapter that said embrace your quirks. This is exactly what they're talking about. The audience, okay, the folks who read your essays spend much of their lives reviewing application folders when they're not on the road promoting their particular college or university. They're stuck in an office somewhere reading applications, selecting out those that seem promising, then discussing them in committee with fellow admissions officers. They read literally thousands of application essays. As a consequence, in a given year, they're likely to read hundreds, if not thousands, of essays in the same or similar topics. Well, it's impossible to avoid duplicating large themes: how you met and overcame a challenge, what you've learned about yourself, how a personal experience spurred your personal growth, et cetera, et cetera. It is possible to offer a fresh take on these themes, provided you write about what no one else can write about, which again is you. So below are some randomly selected comments about college essays offered up by those who read them for a living. Get personal. This is what admissions people are saying. Personalize your essays as much as possible. Generic essays are not only boring to read, they're a waste of time because they don't tell me anything about the applicant. It helps me to get to know them better. A personal epiphany, tragedy, life change, or earth-shattering event is not essential to a strong essay. True, these topics often tug at the heartstrings and therefore get more notice, but I've read essays about family vacations, a garden, a grandmother, even a pen that I've thought have been fabulous. You don't need to be a gay Asian activist to get noticed. It's through the application essay that the admissions officers reading your essay will feel they truly have gotten to know you. You must develop your own voice and tell your story, not the story that you think that the readers want to hear. Be yourself. Detail in terms of introduction. I mean, oftentimes your essay will prompt your nickname among the admissions officers. They'll be sitting around and they'll talk about, oh yeah, that snowmobile girl. This is an essay about Mandy Crowell wrote about having a snowmobile back and forth up on Hastings Mesa. So they really do appreciate those essays that let them feel that they, to some extent, have actually gotten to know you. Details provide the color, the spice, the life of the essay. Ground your essay in the particulars of the experience you're describing. Be specific. Offer concrete examples to support each and every observation. This is always tough, but be different, unique, interesting, funny. Applicants should not be afraid to go out on a limb and be themselves, even when that means incorporating humor or being a little controversial. They're often so afraid of making the correct impression that they edit out anything that would help their essay stand out. They submit a safe essay that is, in reality, sterile, monotonous, and deadly boring. Be honest. Blah, blah, blah. No. Okay, tell a story. This is what I want to push. The applicant should never begin an essay with grand proclamations about the nature of man and universe. Tell a simple story and let the reader make inferences from it. Make sure your essay is readable. Don't make us work. Give your essay momentum. Make sure that the parts work together and move to a point, carrying the reader along. Don't bore us. More often, it's the monotonous style and not the subject matter that make these essays dull. Write to impress yourself first. If you genuinely enjoy reading your final draft, chances are we will too. Then there's a bunch of stuff here, which we'll go over at some later date. You guys can feel free to peruse this, read through it. There is, if you're stuck, what the heck am I going to write about? These are questions, exploring topics. Okay, this is a brief history of you. And these are just some prompts you guys might think about. You might actually use some free writing. You're bored, you're stuck at home, sheltered in place, can't go anywhere. Maybe just spend 5 minutes brainstorming, just data dump, right? Free writing, whatever comes to mind in response to things like, who are the 3 people who've influenced you most? List 3 virtues you admire and respect. What are your favorite quotations? Describe something you failed at. Define happiness. There's a bunch of prompts here. So you might want to start before you jump in, unless you have an idea. If you have an idea for an essay, great. And again, keep in mind, the essays we're writing this week, and then I'll be going over with you next week. This is practice. This is a first pass. They don't have to be perfect. They probably won't be perfect. Some of them will probably be something we'll all say, whoa, Julian, this is great. This is a keeper. We should work on this. Plus, you guys are gonna have some experiences this summer. With how this whole, COVID-19 thing is unfolding. You have a lot of other things to write about as well. But again, most of you are going to need multiple essays in your quiver, which we'll talk about later next fall. So this is a lot. I hate to have these video classrooms go on too long. But questions, and generally speaking, any questions, any concerns? No? Do you guys want to meet on what? Ryder, go ahead.
Not a quick more concern. I'm kind of worried it's going to take a while for me to find out what to write about, because I've always had difficulty writing about myself, as weird as that sounds.
Right. We're just 1 second, Reese. We're taught from an early age that not good people are humble. You don't toot your own horn. This is a place where that advice goes out the window. You guys, of course, you're writing about yourself. If you got to kind of bang your own drum, blow your own trumpet, whatever. This is something that I don't know, because I don't have, and I wish I had the self-reflections. But Ryder, put yourself in Kodo Studios. Talk about community radio. Talk about, just try it. Show me the soundboard. Show me the funky old building, the weird old hippies running around. And then talk about what you do with the radio show. And the big idea that emerges out of that is this idea of community and how valuable community is. That's the kind of thing you want to do. That's, I think, a no-brainer. I'd try that.
Okay.
If you're struck, you're rather stuck for ideas.
All right.
Reese, what were you going to say? Reese,
Yeah.
did you have a question?
These don't have to do anything with our major in college, right?
No,
This
it
doesn't
has
have
nothing
to
to do.
connect to anything academic.
You don't even have to talk about college. You don't even, in fact, you shouldn't probably talk about college. There are going to be some essays, some supplements for some of your schools, that will ask you to talk about majors and talk about college and stuff. But no, this is all about getting to know Reese. I got the stack of applications, all this data, all these GPAs, all these board scores, all these, activities lists and stuff. But I don't really feel like I know Jack until Jack tells me a story about himself. If Ryder, put me in the Kodo Studios, talked about funky, weird community radio and how he stood up and put together this radio club and but didn't really talk so much about the club, but just showed me. This is what they mean by show, don't tell. He put me in a soundboard, put the headphones on, the funky, now I got to put on the 4:00 news or whatever. People coming in and out. Just tell me the story of an afternoon in Kodo. And at some point, about 3/4 of the way through, he's going to step back and say, it wasn't until, I got that call about the lady's lost dog that, some listener had found that I realized this is the importance of community radio or something. That's the big idea. And then he closes it out with one more paragraph about, ending the show and heading out of the Purple House on Pine Street. And that'd be an essay that nobody else, well, most people across the country couldn't write. So that's what we're looking for. It has nothing to do with college, has nothing to do with, with academics. Again, it's telling a story that reveals Margaret in some, and I don't know if, Margaret, obviously some of you guys have, Ella might want to take a pass first at mogul skiing. Margaret might want to start by doing a pass at gymnastics. I don't know. Go with your strengths. You guys have a lot of time. And it's going to take a lot of time to work on these essays. These next 2 weeks are just about getting familiar with the process and giving me a chance to meet with you guys one-on-one. Unfortunately, over Zoom. But other questions, other concerns? Shoot, I thought Miss Kimball was going to try and join us, but I guess she's not going to get on here. Yeah, Julian.
So are we or are we not going to meet again on Thursday?
Well, here's what we could do. Well, we could, if you wanted to, I would post a copy of George Orwell's essay, A Hanging, which we're actually going to read next fall. But it's just such a perfect model. It's not the only way to write a personal narrative, but it's a pretty classic way to structure your own essay. So I was going to say, Julian, if you wanted to, I could post that later today. In addition to start working on your essays, you could read that. It's a very short piece. And then we could talk about not so much the essay and imperialism and stuff, but the structure of that piece and how that provides us with a pretty ready model for how we want to structure our own personal narratives. And would you guys be interested in doing that on Thursday? Yeah. Maybe. Okay. Well, we'll make it optional. Here's what's going to happen. So on Thursday, I'm going to open up a meeting at 8:15. Sorry, it's early. And I will, this afternoon, I'll post Orwell's A Hanging, or maybe Shoot an Elephant. I'll do one of the two. Probably A Hanging, it's shorter. Then we'll meet on Thursday just to talk about that in terms of structure. And then I'm going to come up with a schedule. What I'd like to do is we've actually got more time than that. I'd like to meet with as many of you individually as possible next Tuesday and next Thursday, but also potentially Monday and Wednesday during tutorial and Friday during our virtual office hours or whatever's going on Fridays. And what we'll do is you'll send me a copy of your draft. Please double space it. You can submit it through Schoology. It's easiest if you send it as a Word document attached to an email. I'll go ahead, read those, mark them up, put them up on the screen, and Ella and I will sit here just one-on-one for 15, 20 minutes and go over her essay, talk about what's working, talk about what's problematic, and then you can revise these or not. We'll see. Oftentimes, I'll meet with students, and they'll come up with an essay, and maybe they'll take it through a couple drafts, and finally say, this just isn't working. Let's try something else. And that's fine. And that happens a lot. But because it happens a lot, and because that means you have to spend a lot of time on these essays, plural. I think it's great that you guys are going to get a chance to jump in now and start working on these. So Ella looks tired. So I'm gonna, and I'm getting cold. I gotta go over by this heater. And so I'm gonna post the Orwell essay. Read the Orwell essay. I will get together with whomever wants to meet on Thursday, second period. And no, is that right? No, what's the day? Say Tuesday.
Yeah.
Today's Tuesday, so it would
Yeah,
not be
Thursday.
at 8.
Yeah, okay.
It would
So
be-
Thursday, I'll meet with whoever wants to Thursday, second period. Probably won't go on as long as this, but one of the things I'll do is try to come up with a schedule. But that schedule's partly directed by, I mean, if if Margot cranks out an essay and gets it to me Friday, then I'll meet with Margot on Monday. If it takes Sophia till Monday to get me an essay, that I'm not going to meet her until late in the week. But let's shoot for having a 650 word essay. Even if you think it's a piece of crap, I don't care. Nobody's going to see it but you and me. So try and get a 650 or close 650 word essay cranked out by Friday. If it bleeds into Monday or Tuesday, that's okay too. How are you guys feeling work-wise? Are you pretty overwhelmed or not too much or what?
Some of the classes feel easier than they did in regular school, and some of them feel harder. So it's a mix, really.
That's true across the board. Okay.
Yeah, sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder. It's a process, really.
Okay.
Probably the best way to describe it.
Okay.
I think we're all
Listen,
gonna
I'm
be-
going to let you guys go. I'm going to close this meeting out. If Margot and Reese and Ella, if you could log back in, I just want to stop this recording and process the video. Can you log back in at about, let's say at like 9:05? Would that work for you, or do you have another class to get to? I want to talk about Mrs. Dalloway and stuff. Okay. All right. So the rest of you guys have a great day. It looks like it's going to be beautiful. Get outside, stay away from other people, but get close to nature. And I will see you guys on Thursday. I probably won't be able to post that Orwell essay until later this afternoon, so check for it this evening. Read it. It's a great essay in and of itself, but think about how it's structured. Excuse me. What sounds like story? What sounds like nonfiction essay and stuff? And I'll see as many of you guys who want to join on Thursday at 8:15. And Reese, Ella, and Margot, I'll see you in about 10 minutes. All righty? All right. Thanks, guys.
Adios.